Hello again. So I want to sit down and talk to you guys a little bit more about AI today. You've probably tried using it to write your tagline or describe your services, or maybe even tried to position your brand with it. And if I'm really honest with myself, I've used AI and it feels good, it feels fine, it's fast. But honestly, I've noticed that I have to work a little bit, right? I have to work a little harder to get it to sound like me, and not only to get it sound like me, but to sound different than everything that's out there, right? So that's because AI is really good at sounding like the internet, right? And I've been using it for years. I've been using it since it was in beta in the OpenAI's playground. And so I've seen sort of this trajectory it's been on. But here's the thing, your brand can't afford to sound like the entire internet, right? I watch all my clients who are using AI in ways that actually quietly erase the very thing that makes them different. So by the end of this little session, you'll understand how AI works, where it waters down your brand without you even realizing it, and when it makes sense to bring it in. And I'm going to kind of give you some good prompts and the best ways to use it. So stick around for that. So let's go. Let's get into this. Before we dive too deep, I want to clear up one thing, how AI works, because this is extremely important to understand. AI, specifically the generative models most of us are using, the ones that are writing our copy and creating images and designs and whatever, they're essentially a giant prediction machine. It doesn't think like you and I do. It uses pattern recognition. It doesn't have opinions. It doesn't have instincts or experiences, despite what some people believe, or that gut level, this just feels right for my business kind of wisdom. It doesn't have that. AI looks at everything and it's trained on information, and it looks at all of that information and it asks, okay, based on all the patterns I've seen before, what's the most likely next word or next idea or next direction? So that's why AI is so good at lists and outlines and summaries and variations on things that already exist, right? While it can generate new combinations, that's the generative part, right, of generative AI, it's still pulling from existing patterns. So its ability to create something truly original could be arguable, right? It could be limited. So let's define, though, what original really means here. When we say your brand needs to be original, we're talking about something that reflects your lived experiences, your values, your voice, things that only you as the founder can bring to the table. AI, on the other hand, can only remix what it already knows. AI can generate novel combinations that technically didn't exist before. So a logo that no one's ever seen, a phrase that's never been written before. But what it can't do is create from lived experience, from context, or strategic intent. It can create things that feel new, but those ideas are still rooted in the patterns it's been trained on, which is exactly why when left on its own or when you're using it, it can nudge you toward branding that sounds familiar and safe and sadly predictable. So even if AI someday becomes capable of generating ideas that feel truly original, it still won't know your story. It won't know the moment you decided to start your business, right? It won't know the specific frustration that your clients carry before they actually find you, right? It won't know the language that your community uses when they show up for each other. So your brand isn't built on what's statistically likely. At least let's hope it's not, right? Your brand is built on what's specifically true about you, the founder, your experiences, your perspective, and the people you're here to help. AI can analyze patterns across millions of businesses, but it can't live your business. So here's a simple rule, or my simple rule. AI is great at reflecting patterns back to you. But in order for you and your business to float to the top, right, to be different, you need to find a way to break that pattern. Because here's where things get kind of tricky. When you bring AI in too early in the branding process, like the very beginning, before you really understand who you are, what you stand for, what your business is here to do, it can actually pull you away from the uniqueness that you're trying to define in the first place. Because remember, AI is trained on what already exists. It's going to spit out familiar phrases. It's going to give you safe ideas. It's going to give you the same industry standard personality you've seen 1,000 times, maybe remixed a little, but it's based on the same pattern. And that's the danger, right? Your brand starts drifting toward generic without you even realizing it from the beginning. And I'll be the first to admit, I'm guilty of using AI and kind of experimenting with some of those generic marketing phrases and writing, mostly because I've been using AI as a tool since it's been in beta, right? Long before it hit the mainstream marketing channels. And it wasn't really great in the beginning. And you can argue whether it's great now, you still have to know how to use it, right? So I'm going to actually be listing out some words, and you'll recognize a lot of those words that I'm about to mention. I've used them in my own marketing at some point during all my experiments while learning how these tools actually work. So I have some pet peeves here that I wanted to go over. But now that I've kind of been in there, kind of getting dirty with the platforms and just learning how they work and how they spit out copy, I never copy and paste directly from any model, ChatGPT, Claude, anything that those models give me, I never copy and paste directly from it. It's extremely important that the words coming out of my mouth actually sound like me and not some robot. So that's why I don't do that anymore. So if you're using, or if you've been using AI for as long as I have, you've probably noticed the same handful of marketing words showing up everywhere. So I'm going to list some of these words. Yeah, and you'll notice, you'll recognize them. So the first one that really grates on me is unlock. It's like AI has a key for everything, right? It unlocks this, it unlocks that. Elevate your this, elevate your that. AI wants to elevate everything. Empower yourself, empower your business. And this is a hard one because I kind of like the word empower. I feel like it's been hijacked by AI. This is a phrase that I am really annoyed by, and I see it everywhere. No fluff. If I see that phrase, I know it was created by AI. Transform, transformation, transformational. These words all have been overused by AI. However, it's a good word. Transformation is a really good word. So I struggle with that. Potential. So here's where AI loves to unlock potentials. It loves to help you reach your potential and tap into your potential. Authentic. Authentic is another word. Authenticity, be authentic. I did a whole video on authenticity, and it's possible that just with the advent of AI, the word authentic has really started to kind of be cringy for me. Next level. Okay, so that's another word that I hear all the time. Magnetic, as in magnetic brand, magnetic energy, especially in wellness and coaching circles and industries. This word is highly overused, I think. And then the next is two-word combination that, because they're together, just tells me it was created by AI. That's the two words, clarity and confidence. Anytime I hear that combination, I know it was spit out by AI. AI loves alliteration, so I think that's probably why clarity and confidence are really good. And I think I've even used clarity and confidence, and it's probably still even in some of my marketing right now. And then the last word, synergy. Synergy and synchronicity. Those are words I see all the time, just totally saturating the market with that marketing speak. So anyway, so those are that's just my own personal list of words. So you may have your own list of words that you see all the time based on your business and what you talk about, but these are the words that I see a lot. And these are the words that show up constantly in my clients' copy and in my own experiments. But the real issue here is the more people rely on AI for marketing, the more these same words get repeated. And then AI gets trained on that new content. And then this becomes a news cycle, right? It's kind of like when you take a photograph and then you photocopy it. And then you take that photocopy and you make a photocopy of that. And then you take that photocopy and you make a photocopy of that. Over time, the original photograph image degrades. It becomes a little blurrier. By the 10th cycle, it's completely unrecognizable. And you wouldn't even know what the original photo looked like. This is the real problem that most generative AI models have today. Researchers actually have researched this, and they call this model collapse. It's when AI trained on AI-generated content degrades over time. If future AIs are trained mostly on other AIs, the same thing happens. The work gets more generic, less nuanced, and slowly drifts away from the richness of actual human thinking. And this is why bringing AI in too early during your brand building process can be a huge problem. Instead of hearing your voice, People hear the voice of the internet or the algorithm or the learning platform. They're hearing the voice of everyone else who uses the same tool. So your entire brand has degraded before it even exists if you skip straight to using the tools before you've explored what's in your head first, right? Because it all exists there first. By using AI to define your brand in the first place, you miss those little aha, that's who we are moments, right? Those lived experiences, those little quirks, those strong opinions, and all those little things that set you apart. And listen up, you will definitely miss that innovative edge that only shows up when a real human is making creative decisions. AI can absolutely support your thinking, and stick around to the end because I'm going to give you some little prompting nuggets later on and how you can use those. But it can't replace the part of the process where you say, this is who I am, this is what I believe, this is what I'm building, and this is what I want to be known for, right? If you skip that part and you ask AI to create it, your whole brand will feel flat. It will be safe and it will be predictable, but it won't stand out. And here's the part where AI can help you shine, and where I actually think it becomes a really fun creative partner. Once you've done the human work, right? Once you know your values, your personality, your voice, the kind of experience you want people to have when they interact with your brand, that's when AI starts to become useful in a healthy way. Because now you're not asking it to define you. You're asking it to expand what you already know and what it already knows about you. So AI is great at giving you volume. It's great at riffing, right? It's great at surprising you with combinations you might not have even thought about on your own. But the secret is you have to feed it direction. You need to give it specific inputs. This is you defining the edges of the sandbox, right? If you walk in and say, give me ideas for my brand, you're going to get the same predictable stuff everybody else gets, right? But if you walk in and say, take my values and turn them into visuals and metaphors, and then give it a list of your values, that is very specific, and that'll give you a good starting point. Here's another prompt. Take this thought I had and stretch it in 3 directions. One safe, one weird, one I'd never think of on my own. And I think this was one that I started using early on, but it's still a good prompt. Here's another prompt. Give me ideas that break away from the common patterns in my industry. It's going to need to know your industry. It's going to need to know details about your brand, and then give it 5 examples of messaging that you don't want to sound like, okay? But specific. You're going to need to give it specific directions and give it context, right? Another good prompt is help me find storytelling angles based on this one life moment, and then give it that one personal moment that you've had that it can give you storytelling angles on. So this is when it becomes a super helpful brainstorming partner. You're basically saying, here's the spark and uniqueness. Now help me play with it. And AI is amazing at play, right? It can help you remix and reshape things, but a lot of that inspiration is going to come from you. The original inspiration. It's going to be inspired by the conversation you have with the tool. And don't be afraid to use the voice to text features in these models. So here's an idea. You can prompt it to keep your tone of voice sounding 100% human. You can feed it examples of your writing. You probably already know about this, your content, your scripts, your client emails, and then you can ask it to analyze the tone and summarize it for you. Then you can save that summary in a document and you can upload it into whatever AI tool you're using, whether that's ChatGPT or Anthropic's Claude. So it always has your voice to reference and build from. I use it in this way all the time, not to tell me who I am or what I believe, but to build on the things that already exist in my head, right? So when you approach it from that angle, it stops being a threat to originality and it starts being a tool that helps you stretch creatively without diluting who you really are. Here's a prompt I use constantly. So use the voice to text feature to speak whatever is on your mind. Just blah, blah, blob into your phone. Then copy that snippet and paste it into your favorite AI tool along with this prompt. Can you refine this paragraph, keeping my words, but helping me with structure and flow? This keeps your tone of voice and your personal vocabulary intact, but makes your writing easier to understand and structurally sound. I've been known to make up my own words on occasion. One of the words that I used to use a lot is flim the flam, and I used it a lot when I was back in the day, like a decade ago when I was still blogging. So a lot of those words are quintessentially me, and I wanted to keep those intact. So it's this personal vocabulary that I think is important to protect when you're trying to stay consistent with your tone of voice. Okay, so let's talk about AI branding platforms. These are the ones that are promising the logos and the color palettes and the taglines and the whole brand identity in just a few clicks, right? So here's the truth. These platforms can be genuinely helpful as long as you understand what they're actually built to do. Most of them are designed to recognize patterns, just like we talked about earlier. They scan thousands of logos, fonts, color palettes, and marketing messages, and then generate something based on what is statistically common or trending. So if you've used one of these tools before you've defined your brand's foundation, you'll get something that looks clean and polished, but it's also going to be very familiar and somewhat safe and honestly pretty average. And that's not a dig. That's literally the math behind it. AI pulls from what already exists out there. And this is where things get questionable. Because if you're starting a brand from scratch, you still need to do your trademark checks, not just for your name, but for your symbols or your concepts that you're thinking about using. Make sure you're not drifting into copyright or close enough territory, because AI honestly could be producing that. But really, this comes back to the same rule I follow everywhere else with AI. I wouldn't copy and paste directly from a generic prompt, and I definitely wouldn't use a logo or identity that an AI generator spit out without putting my own spin on it, right? Because that's the danger. AI leans into trends that show up over and over. But in branding, your whole goal is to build something that stands out, something that's original enough that people remember it. And you can't get that if you're only choosing from what's already been done, right? Or just a remix of what everything else looks like. But here's where AI becomes useful. These platforms are fantastic for starting points, right? They can help you identify what your visual vibe is. They can reveal patterns in your industry so you can see what everyone else is doing and decide how you want to shift away from that to stand out, right? They can spark ideas in you that maybe you hadn't even considered before. They can help you quickly explore options without getting stuck staring at a blank page. And that is probably one of the biggest advantages to AI that I know of. They're tools, right? They're not creators themselves, though. You, my friend, you are the creator of your brand. Where this thing really rockets, where AI really rockets, is when you take those starting points and you layer your own creativity on top of that. Your story, your quirks, your values, your lived experience, your industry perspective, your specific point of view of what your brand stands for. And if you're sitting there thinking, I wish there were an AI model that could just create my brand foundation for me, I'm sorry, there isn't. All of that lives in your head, right? It's all in your head. You've got to be the one to get it out. But there is something that comes pretty close. That's a shameless plug here, right? My human-led brand explorer workshops are basically the guided version of everything we've been talking about in this video. This is actually where they become even more powerful. They lead you through a fully human-led exploration to define your brand's foundation, like your values, your message, your voice, your vision, your attributes, even your archetypes, all the things that AI can't create for you, right? And when you jot these ideas down and you capture them in my editable PDF workbook that I provide you, that workbook basically becomes your brand's super prompt, right? You can upload it directly into any AI tool you decide to use, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or anything. You could add it as a support file or a project or whatever. So now, instead of AI guessing who you are or what you stand for, it finally has a clear, grounded foundation to reference your Brand Explorer workbook, right? And it can help you refine the messaging from that, right? The content from that. It can help you create brand assets in your tone of voice because it's pulling directly from the clarity you built, not from generic patterns online. And that's the part that no AI platform can output, right? So I absolutely think you should play with the AI branding generators, right? But leave the foundation to human-led questions and answers. So the AI generators are fast and they're convenient and they're fun, but when you're using those, stay in the mindset of this is inspiration, not my identity. Let them give you ideas, not the answers. Let the human-led questions and answers be the prompts for all of your creating later, right? They can help you explore, but make sure you always come back to the foundation you built in the very beginning, that human part, the part that shapes something original, something with a real heartbeat that your audience can actually connect with, right? Because the most memorable brands aren't predictable. They're distinct and intentional. And until AI models shift from predictive to truly original, that's the part only you can create. So the bottom line is AI can help you brainstorm, it can help you explore ideas, it can help you move faster and more efficiently, but it can't build the foundation of your brand for you. That's still the part that has to come from your head, your experiences, and the things that make you different. So if you're ready for clarity before you bring AI into the mix, if you want a stronger foundation going into 2026, or if you're just tired of feeling like you're just hitting a wall when you're marketing your business, I'm going to include the link in the description or the email that I send out to my list. And remember, AI can support your creativity, but you, as the human behind the brand, are the one who makes it original and intentional and different. So that's it for today. Hopefully you all had a great holiday, and I'll talk to you in the next one.